Student, today we discuss the digestion process in small intestine and large intestine and the absorption of food in ileum. So uh, in previous class we discussed from mouth to stomach. Now we discuss the next part of a stomach to anus. Okay, and this is the second half of digestion. You see here there is a we share a video in previous class also. Today we also goes to the stomach. Yeah, here uh, we know that the in the stomach there is a secretion of gastric juice from the gastric gland. Total process is controlled by the gastrin hormone, and here only the protein digestion occurs. Carbohydrate, lipid, and fat are not digestion in stomach. Then the food materials goes towards the uh, stomach to uh, part of stomach to intestine, and that is called the duodenum. We know that the small intestine has three parts: the duodenum. This one is duodenum, then the jejunum, and the last one is ileum. Total small intestine is 6.35 meter long, and when the food materials enter the duodenum, then the bile secretion for gallbladder. We know that the bile is produced in liver, or the lysis of uh, red blood cell. Red blood cell lifespan is 40 days. After death, their graveyard is liver, and here they lysis and create the heme and globulin, and from heme we see to produce bilirubin and biliverdin. So bilirubin and biliverdin, the essential pigment. The bilirubin is yellow and biliverdin is green. So the bile is yellowish green. Okay, yellowish green color bile, and it has also some salt, that is sodium tartrate and sodium glycocholate secretion from here. Now we see here the digestion after secretion of bile. It's a total 98% water and 0.8% of bile salt is present here in bile, and here it is passed through the bile duct, and the other organ is pancreas. We know that the pancreas is a mixed gland, and 99% is exocrine, that secretion the pancreatic juice. There is a 15 different kind of enzyme here. We know that the complex food are four type, like the carbohydrate, protein, lipid, and nucleic acid. So we see pancreatic amylase, they digest the carbohydrate; pancreatic protease, they digest the protein; pancreatic lipase, that digest the lipid; and pancreatic nucleus, that digest the nucleic acid. And they both duct are joined common bile pancreatic duct, and there is aperture that is called the ampulla of Vater, and that's from that ampulla they discharge the bile. The pancreatic juice controlled by the secretin and cholecystokinin hormone, and cholecystokinin hormone also control the secretion of bile. Here we see the secretion of bile and both are occurs here. Here you see the bile secretion from bile duct, gallbladder, and pancreatic juice secretion from pancreas. The bile secretion controlled by the uh, uh, cholecystokinin, and uh, pancreatic juice secretion controlled by the secretin and cholecystokinin. And here the also the digestion of carbohydrate, protein, lipid, and nucleic acid all are done here in this duodenum. Okay, here duodenum mostly all of the food substances are here digestion occurs, and they absorb by the ileum. Ileum has the villi, and that's really absorb the food substance. Especially here the peristalsis process occurs, and now we see the food substance go entrance after absorption occurs. The rest of non-digestive food are entrance in the cecum part. Cecum, this one, and here is a vestigial organ that is called appendix. And after the cecum, we see uh, upward part of digestive tract that is called ascending colon, then the transverse colon, and the lower descending colon and the sigmoid colon are uh, are seen here. And then the colon take the non-digestive food substance or stool towards the rectum. Here the stool are storage, and by the anus is excrete from the body. Okay, so here in large intestine there is no especially no digestion occurs, but there are some uh, nutrition activities like the water and minerals of non-digestive food are absorbed here, and also the formation of stool occurs. There is a trillion of bacteria in our large intestine, like the Escherichia coli, and they goes to fermentation process, okay, in this large intestine. So now we see next part, the digestion process of a small intestine. Here we see the liver, okay, uh, but liver is a digestive gland, but it doesn't, its secretion bile, but stored in gallbladder. So gallbladder is not a gland. Gallbladder is a stored part, a stored sac. So we don't mention as a digestive gland. That is largest gland in our body. The liver weight is 1500 uh, gram, 1.5 kg, and 4 loaves is present there. Okay, so here we describe the bile greenish yellow fluid. Why? The greenish color is biliverdin, and the yellowish color is the bilirubin that is found from the lysis of RBC. Okay, uh, here we see the lysis of RBC. The heme produce this bilirubin and biliverdin. There 98% is water in bile, but 0.8% is bile salt. What is bile salt? Sodium torcolate and sodium glycocolate. These are two bile salt. So bile has secretion from hepatocyte of cell, and that is controlled by the cholecystokinin. Okay, there is in per day 0.8 to 1.0 liter of bile, 1 liter of bile are discharged from body hepatocyte cell, and it has only uh, physical function or physical process, that is emulsification the large fat portion are transferred into lipid droplet by the presence of bile. So this one is one kind of uh, uh, physical activities, but there is no chemical activities. Especially there is one of the chemical activities, the stomach acidic chyme are here transfer into normal portion. That means 0.7 pH 7. pH 7 is here. Control the pH 7. Okay, neutral. pH 7 means neutral pH. Okay, we know that the stomach pH is 1.5 to 2. So now we goes to next part, pancreas. We know that the 90%, that's pancreas and liver are joined with the joined into the duodenum. Okay, so the pancreas 99% is exocrine portion. Exo means that's produce the uh, enzyme, and endo means that produce the hormone. So 99%, that means the lobule, hepatic lobule that present in pancreas, and that's produce the exocrine secretion enzyme, and endocrine secretion is only 1%, and that is insulin and glucagon released from pancreas. So pancreas is a mixed gland. Okay, that's why pancreas is called the mixed gland. Okay, here we see, okay, here we see now there is a different 15 kind of enzyme is present here, like the pancreatic amylase, pancreatic protease, pancreatic lipase, pancreatic nuclease. Okay, so these are the 4 type of enzyme, group of enzymes. It's called the 4 group of enzyme. And here we see it's totally controlled by the secretin and cholecystokinin. Secretin hormone and cholecystokinin hormone. Okay, secretin hormone and cholecystokinin hormone. Now we see the total digestion process. There is some mechanical portion here also mentioned. There's the forward and backward of food substance in the small intestine. This one is called peristalsis, and by this peristalsis, the food substance are absorbed by the villi that present in the inner part of, especially the ileum, inner part of ileum, that is called microvilli. Okay, now this one physical process, but the chemical process, the digestion of carbohydrate. Here the starch is a plant stored food, and the glycogen are animal stored food. These are transferred into disaccharide, the middle level of digestion, that is disaccharide or oligosaccharide, is formation here by the presence of in pancreatic amylase. Okay, and also we see here it's a disaccharide, and that is by the uh, uh, that is by the uh, so also intestinal enzyme, uh, Zymase enzyme, amylase is an amylase enzyme. Is transferred into disaccharide to glucose plus glucose. Okay. Now we see the digestion of lipid. Here the digestion of lipid. Okay. Now here the digestion of lipid. Okay. Here fat are uh, transferred into fatty acid and glycerol by the presence of lipase. Then phospholipid on the presence of phospholipase, that is transferred in fatty acid and phosphoric acid. Then cholesterol cholesterol starches by the cholesterase enzyme is transferred in fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, and here we see the lipase is action here. The uh, nu uh, nuclease enzyme here, pancreas is secretion, the DNAs and RNAs, that is called the nucleus, that transfer into nucleotide. Nucleotide. Okay, so these are the mid-level product, nucleotide, but it is not the simplest part. So here we see the nucleic acid also digestion occurs. Digestion of protein here we see the inactive trypsinogen. Inactive trypsinogen is active by enterokinase enzyme and active trypsin. And active trypsin, on the presence of trypsin, it's transferred into মানে active trypsin, it is a kind of chymotrypsin. Okay, chymotrypsin is also inactive here, and that is active by the trypsin, and the polypeptidase by the carboxypeptidase is transferred into amino acid, and trypsin also tripeptide here. Tripeptide, on the presence of tripeptidase, is transferred in amino acid. Dipeptide on the presence of dipeptidase, it transferred in amino acid. And collagen, on the presence of collagen, we see the amino acid transfer into collagen protein are transferred into amino acid. Okay. So we see most of the digestion is also transfer is the simplest form here, but there is some residue, and that's are totally complete by the secretion of goblet cell, or that means intestinal juice. What is the other name of secretion of goblet cell? That is intestinal juice. Okay. Now we see okay goblet cell here. These are the unicellular. There is a 17 billions in the length of the intestine present the goblet cell. It's about 5 days more survival time is 5 days. So here the intestinal wall we see enzyme secretion cell that is intestinal juices secretion from the goblet cell, and mucus from the Brunner's cells. Okay, mucus secretion from Brunner's cell, and juice secretion from goblet cell. Okay, now there is again 4 kind of intestinal juice: amylase, intestinal, protease, lipase, nuclease. Okay, these are all intestinal enzyme. Now these controlled by enterokinase hormone. Totally it is controlled by enterokinase hormone. We know that the bile secretion is controlled by the cholecystokinin, and pancreatic juice secretion by the secretin and cholecystokinin, and we see these this intestinal juice secretion controlled by the enterokinin hormone. Okay, so here we see also the chemical reaction of intestinal juice. Then we see the disaccharide. These are mainly disaccharide. Maltose transfer into glucose plus glucose. Then the it's a it's a sucrose, edible sugar. It's by the presence of sucrase that is transferred into glucose and fructose. Then we see invertose, that is glucose and fructose also. And this one is like yeah, this one is milk sugar, that is lactose, and that is transferred into glucose and galactose. And also we see this one is called dipeptide, sorry, okay, also no, this one is the uh, protein digestion. So protein digestion here also we see dip, uh, uh, dipeptide. Dipeptide is transferred into amino acid on the presence of erepsin. So here is the on kind of enzyme secretion from intestinal juice, that is erepsin, thus control the protein digestion. And here we see lipid digestion also. Lipid digestion, triglyceride transfer into fatty acid, glycerol, and glyceride. And then the lecithin transfer into creatine, fat, glycerol. These are the function of lecithin. Okay. Now we see nucleotide is transferred into presence of nucleotidase is transferred into pentose sugar and nitrogen base. And sorry, nucleosidase plus phosphate. Then the nucleoside is transferred the nucleoside into pentose sugar and nitrogen base. So we see here at a glance total digestion of uh, intestine portion. Now we goes to next part, and that is where the digestion occurs. Okay. Here we see the digestion of three major food substance. And first one, the digestion of carbohydrate. Here it's uh, only take place here, digestion of carbohydrate. Um, okay, this one is digestion, but here the lipid and protein are does not digested here. We know that the uh, salivary gland secretion the taurine and maltase, that's participation in carbohydrate digestion, but there is no lipase or protease enzyme seen in salivary gland. So there is no lipid and protein digestion occurs. Also we see in stomach there is no digestion of carbohydrate and fat. Okay, only protein digestion occurs. Okay, now duodenum we see disaccharide and protein digestion occurs, but the lipid is don't digest in here. After this we see the digestion all are done, all type of digestion or food digestion occurs in small intestine. Small intestine totally create the all type of small intestine. Okay. Now we go to next slide, and that is we see the total digestion process. We see there some chemical reaction. Here we see some chemical reaction is presented here. We know that the buccal cavity only the carbohydrate digestion occurs. Then the boiled carbohydrate transfer into, especially in maltose, and maltose transfer into glucose plus glucose. Here, uh, Here we see in stomach and the inactive pepsinogen on the presence of HCl, it is came out active pepsin. The prorenin also came out renin HCl on the presence of HCl and also we see um, protein digestion occurs first, and it is create the protease and peptone. Then milk casein, it is create the paracasein, and paracasein, uh, uh, paracasein and paracasein also on the presence of pepsin, they just transfer into pepsin. Okay, so here we see the digestion of protein in stomach. There is no digestion of lipid and no digestion of uh, fat here. Fat and no digestion of lipid is done here. Now, all the digestion that's presents, all kind of digestion is occurs uh, in especially the small intestine. Here, the carbohydrate digestion, this one lipid digestion, this one digestion of lipid, and this one is digestion of nucleic acid. Okay, so after this, now we go next slide. Here, absorption process. We know that there is a numerous villi in small intestine, especially the ileum, and in their uh, serosa cell and other cell is enriched with blood capillaries and also the lacteal. Okay, so absorption of and transport of blood is done by the capillaries of the inner growth of villi, and here the absorption of transport of lymphatic, that is transport this substance in the lymphatic system. Okay, lymphatic system. All substances are absorbed here in small intestine, and they carry the towards the liver, because liver is a storehouse. So all things are stored in liver by the hepatic portal vein. This vein is called hepatic portal because it goes towards the heart directly. It is distributed other gland, other gland, uh, and that's why it is called the portal system. Okay. Here we see the food substance that are uh, absorbed here. The simple form of carbohydrate is glucose, fructose, galactose, zymose, elabinose. These are the simplest form. They are absorbed by active process with the help of sodium and ATP, controlled by uh, instruction, insulin and glucocorticoid. This is controlled by the insulin and glucocorticoid. The amino acid is two type, L and D. Uh, D is by the active process, and L is by the active process, and D is by especially the absorption process, normal absorption process. That is controlled by the thyroxine hormone. Okay? That's also consumed by the lymphatic lacteal. This one is also lymphatic duct. Then the fat, fat fat is transferred into glycerol and glucose. These are the these are controlled by the thyroxine hormone also. So first one is controlled by insulin and glucagon, and the next two is by the um, thyroxine hormone. Okay, so here we see the here the fat are break down into by small droplet, that is called lipid droplet, by the bile. Okay, bile also joint bile then join the surface of uh, portion of fatty acid and glycerol, and that is called micelle. This micelle, when it penetrate to the epithelial layer, then the endoplasmic layer covered the uh, whole whole kind of micelle, and it is like a cluster of ring, and these things are called chylomicron, and then the chylomicron is penetrate into the lacteal, okay, by the absorption process. So here today we discuss all the digestion process and the absorption process in human body. And so today we complete the total total syllabus of chapter 3. Next day we discuss the uh, next chapter, fourth chapter, that is blood circulation. And okay, thank you everyone.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.